Welcome back. Today we're going to get into some heavy duty stuff, and if you've never seen my channel before, basically we wood carve and we talk about crafts and going to craft fairs. But this one's going to go a little off the rails, although it's going to have a lot to do with dealing with AI and art. And as an artist, how do we navigate what's coming and how do we thrive? So I'm going to talk a bit about AI first, because this was a system like a lot of us were like, whoa, 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 hit the brakes. We don't want AI. And it was just kind of forced on us anyway. It was like, no, I'm sorry, this is happening. We're doing AI if you like it or not. And it accelerated very quickly. For a long time, I resisted it, because you'll watch my stories on here and I will use AI art as jokes. I'll stick them in, or maybe a thumbnail will be AI or something like that. And that part was very useful. And once in a while, I'd have it like write the keywords that I didn't want to deal with, or write a description. And that stuff was great. I was like, okay, I can see the value of this, because it used to take me forever to write a YouTube description or a good title or something, and AI will help. It doesn't do it for you, but it'll get it close, and then you go back and fix it the way you want it. So I was really underestimating how fast AI would take off, and I really didn't want to use it. I just use it as a joke, kind of. But what shockingly is, within like 6 months, AI completely changed, and it's just speeding up, and it's getting more and more powerful and better. Because when we first started using AI, and you've seen this, I'd be like, I need a picture of a raccoon, and the raccoon had like 6 legs. It was very obvious to tell. And it's moving to a place, though, in art, and we're going to talk about other areas too. But I'm going to start out with art. I think what's going to happen with AI art is there's going to be like a social stigma, because it's already starting, where, when I was a kid, everything was made in the US, and then it started going to China. So tools became cheap Chinese junk, is what people would say it was. And there was a social stigma attached that was like, yeah, I don't want to buy that drill. That's cheap Chinese junk. These days, everything's made in China. But back then, you had a choice. And if you watch my channel, a lot of the hand tools I use are antiques that I go on eBay and I buy the old ones, because the new ones, the steel's not the same. Everything, like, they are meant to break. They're the planned obsolescence. So it's a lot different. And I think what's happening with AI is the art's already getting stigmatized. You'll hear people be like, oh yeah, that's cheap AI. And what was surprising is how fast it got out. So I saw a YouTube channel where the lady was going into Hobby Lobby, and they were looking at AI. Like, they were looking for AI posters and AI artwork. And they were pulling these things up, and they were nice little posters, but you could see, like, again, if it was a picture of a possum, the possum would have an extra finger. Or, a picture of a motorcycle and one of the handlebars is missing. Like, there was little things that just somehow got through. But I can understand why these companies are doing this, right? For you guys that don't know, I used to be an author years ago, and I liked illustrated books. So a lot of my novels had illustrations in them. And I used to pay someone to hand draw all these illustrations. And back then it was, $200 a pop for a page that was hand drawn. And that was kind of a deal back then. But you had to deal with, paying this person royalties. If you, like, the big companies pay their artists royalties, and they get paid forever on their artwork. And it's just expensive and slow. Like, I remember waiting 3 or 4 weeks for a drawing sometimes. And I was like, let's go. The book's ready. I just need some art. And it was a lot. So what happened was, now I can get on Twitter and get on Grok and be like, I need this picture. And I can make an entire book in a weekend. And I can have it write my book, really. I could be like, I need a book about this, and then just change some of the dialogue. So I can crank a book out in a weekend. And with art, I can make a whole children's book if I wanted. And I don't have to pay royalties to anyone. I don't have to worry about the artwork not owning it. I own it 100%. You know, like, it's, as a business owner, it only makes sense to replace artists with a much cheaper option that's faster and can respond quickly and that I don't have to keep paying. Like, I get why everybody's moving that way. So, but now because of that, I think there's a stigma. And what I'm going to see happening, and I'm going to come back around to this a few times, but I'm going to drop it out here in the beginning. I think this is kind of the difference between having an original painting and a print. There's going to be bragging rights, like, oh, I own the original of this painting, but I could have got a print for 1/100th of the cost. Why do people still buy the originals? And they buy them because they're either good investments or for social, standing. Basically, signaling their friends that, hey, I can afford an original. So in rich circles, artwork will still fly, and people will look at that. And I think that's going to trickle down some to the masses, where someone's going to look at art and be like, is this AI or is this real? Did someone make this? And it's going to be much higher standing to have someone make it. Because honestly, it's a cheap, the amount of time, the investment that goes in is going to be based on how cheap it is. So did I struggle to make this thing? No, I just went on a computer, put a prompt in, and I got a picture. Like, that's not much struggle, so there's not much value. But if I'm watching a guy spend 10 hours carving, a little sculpture, that has value because someone put their hands into it. And now, some of the public is not going to give a darn. They're going to go on Temu and get the $3 carving of something that I would charge, $15 because they have a CNC machine that can carve it out. That's going to happen, and those really aren't going to be our audience if you want to move forward and kind of AI-proof you. You don't really want to worry about the cheap little things. You want to start focusing on becoming a high-end artist that is that people would pay your stuff for, or an artist that can go out where machines can't. Like if I'm going to go to someone's yard and they've got a downed tree, I could probably carve that where it would be such an ordeal to get a machine in there to do it, to carve a leftover stump or something like that. There's still going to be a lot of value for that sort of thing. But anyway, let's dive into. I'm going to paint a picture here, and for some people, they're going to get really upset, but don't shoot the messenger, because this is coming, and it's coming fast, like shockingly fast. What the problem is a lot of our society is based around middlemen, like me having a product, someone doing paperwork on that product, going to the corporation, and then going back through the middleman and coming to me. And the thing is a lot of these middleman, middle management, middle admins, their job is kind of redundant. It's supposed to make things flow easier and a double check. But these are most of the jobs someone getting out of a 4-year degree is going to get. They're going to be like, an insurance guy, or, they're going to be a paper admin for a hospital, or, one of those things. That stuff's going to be quickly replaced with AI. Now, I used to run a doctor's office. I had 7 employees. I paid almost 2 employees, like 1.5 employees, one full-time, one part-time. All they did was get on the phone and chase claims and try to get insurance companies to pay their bills. And I had to hire an entire person for that. Where now, I could probably, in the next year or two, I could have AI do all that for me. I could have programs just constantly check over the claims and check the paperwork and follow up and send emails, and even you could even get an AI voice to call, and just completely replace that job, so I don't have to hire somebody. I don't have to deal with a moody employee or an employee that can't come because they're sick or their kid's got a soccer game, or I don't have to deal with employees anymore. That would as much as I liked some of those people as a business owner, why would I pay an employee for a program that does the same thing? You know, and I think that is going to be shocking how fast that gets done. You're going to see a lot of people that work in paperwork get replaced. So I think it's already starting, and you're going to see this. You know, this is another thing I saw, which was shocking. Was I've been paying attention to the tech field because some of my friends are in the tech field, and they are hemorrhaging. Like, so tech used to be a disproportionately well-paying job. The average doctor makes somewhere about 150,000 a year, which seems like, you know, not that much, right, for the amount of school you have to do. A tech guy writing code, if you're in the right company, $300,000-$400,000. You know, so some people become millionaires selling out, and it was like supposedly the quick way to get rich, and some people did. But if you go on LinkedIn now, you'll see that the jobs over $100,000 have crashed, and if their one comes up, there's like 500 people applying for it. So tech jobs are getting replaced very quickly because their job is basically, you know, very friendly to having a robot take it over. It's a lot of the same things. I can get an AI program to write code. I can get an AI program to do you know, graphics and stuff like that. They're getting the point where I can basically have AI replace many things in the tech world. And the tech world's freaking out because they don't know what to do. Their jobs are so fly by night, like, you know, there's not any job security in that field. Although it's like gambling. If you get the right job, you can get very rich. But what I'm seeing with the tech people is they're starting to slide and do their own gigs instead of working for someone. I feel bad because, you know, you used to be able to get a computer science degree and it was useful in any sort of way, but now, like, if you look at the coding, they can code like in English now. You don't even need to learn code anymore. It's crazy. So the stuff you learn, a degree is completely useless in computer science now, and the field changes so fast. If I was in tech, I would be looking at either starting something for myself, or just maybe teaming up with some other people to handle the tech end of something. But I doubt you're going to have the cushy Google jobs and the cushy, I don't know, any of the tech companies. They're the jobs where the people get to play foosball all day and have coffee. That stuff's over, man. And on that note, I think the death of remote work is coming. So during 2020, a lot of people started working from home, and it's awesome. Like, working from home is great, right? Everybody wants to do that. Nobody wants to drive to an office. But once they've done that, where you can basically type something into a computer, send it to a central location, you have set yourself up to be replaced. Why can't I have an AI do the same thing? If I can do all this out of the office, a robot could do this. And I think you're going to see a hard backlash on the working from home jobs, and they're basically going to dry up. They're either going to be replaced by AI, or the companies running the places are tired of it. And you're seeing that now with the government recall, where they're like, no, you can't work from home anymore because they abused it so badly. And those jobs are getting eliminated too. I would not get anywhere near a government job right now. They're going to get cut. I think most of that, because a lot, and I mean a lot, like 80% of the government's unnecessary jobs that could easily be replaced by an AI program. And I think that is very much going to come quickly. I think it will also take jobs that are menial jobs, you know, that people don't like doing, where they're like, who's going to pick the fruit, and who's going to turn a wrench at a factory, and who's going to sell you a burger. All that stuff can be replaced by robots and AI. And what will happen is you'll have one person kind of just making sure all the robots are running right, you know. And they're already trying. Like if you look at Walmart, they've been trying for years to get rid of their physical locations. They want to be like Amazon, where they just ship stuff out and train people to either drive and pick it up, where somebody will just walk it out of a warehouse so they don't have to maintain a store. They can just have a warehouse, or they want to ship it to you at home. They would love to not have to pay these giant fees for locations, and that is coming quickly because if you've ever seen the Amazon warehouse, like half of it's robots. You know, they go and they get their packages and bring it back, and there's like one person that double checks everything. That's coming quick for the other big corporations, and they would love, like they've already got people trained to do the self-checkout, you know. And I hate it. I won't do it, but but there's a lot of people that like it and want it, and they're used to it and they're trained to it. And there are Walmarts around here that don't even have any employees. Everything is a checkout. Sorry, down in South Carolina. When I was in South Carolina, they had smaller Walmarts. There's market Walmarts that you'd go in, and there was literally no checkout line anywhere. It was all self-checkout, the whole bay. It was very weird. So that's not a big leap. If they can already train you to do that, to just train you to use, to order stuff and not have to have a location, you know. I think all that stuff's sort of coming. So I think the menial jobs that people hate doing anyway, I think they will be replaced in the next probably 3 to 4 years. You'll see that. All right, this is a big one I'm going to get into, is the medical industry. And for a while, you've kind of already seen this happen. They have doctors who can use robots and work. You know, one doctor can do a surgery anywhere around the world with a robot. Now, it's not that common yet, but that's just a cost thing. Also, it's going to get to a point where the AI robots are so good they can do the surgery better than a doctor. That they can identify the nerves and can identify the blood vessels and move around it and be precise and not have a shaky hand and not, you know, not that. And for the expense of what a surgeon costs, it is much cheaper to have a bunch of robots and then one surgeon supervised to make sure, because that's how they'll sell it. They'll be like, oh, there's a human, he's just watching the machines though, you know. But don't worry, you still have human interaction. They'll sell it that way to get people comfortable with the idea. But what they will use it as is, well, American healthcare is so expensive that this is the way around that is, you know, right now it costs hundreds of dollars to have a tooth pulled, but this robot can do it for $100. You know, same thing, great care, and it'll be accessible for everybody. And then they'll push probably the poorest population, the Medicare and the Medicaid, will be kind of forced to use it. And then the rich people will still have, you know, real doctors they can go to. That'll be like an elite thing to go to a real doctor. You will just basically be going to machines. And what will happen is, it's kind of like that movie Idiocracy, where the guy walks in and he sticks something in his mouth to get diagnosed and sticks something else and somewhere else, and it's like, oh, you're sick, you know, the machine diagnosis. They are getting the point now where, especially like a general practitioner, the general practitioners are just like pill machines. You go in, you make a complaint. If you're lucky, you get to see them for a minute or two. There's no way they can do a real exam. I literally saw a workers' comp exam where the guy was like, okay, bend over, touch your toes. All right, here's your meds. Like, that was the entire exam. And and that was 20 years ago. I saw that firsthand, you know, I was in the field. And I was like, wow. Okay, so the general practitioners are basically walking scripts. You know, you go in, you give them the complaint, they give you medication, come back in 2 weeks, let's see, and they control your drugs. An AI computer program could easily do this. And I think do a better job, honestly, because a doctor does not have time to check all your medications. I remember patients coming in with like a history that was like this big, and they would hand it to me, and I was like, I can read this history, but I'm gonna have to charge you for 3 hours of my work to go through this if I read this. Like that's how long it's going to take for me to look through all this history and check you for contraindications. So you could have an AI program do that like that. All that stuff's digital now. So like they could check your medications, follow it along, and you could have a doctor supervise. But what'll happen is you will get to the point where you're talking to a doctor on a screen that is fake in an AI, but they'll be open to you anytime, and they'll answer your questions, and they'll give you a prescription. In fact, they just kind of passed a bill about this. Let me put this up. This bill allows basically using computers to dispense medication. So what's going to happen with this? And you're going to see these doctors will be able to be there at 3 a.m. if your kid's sick, because you'll turn on a computer and you'll be able to drive by a dispensing machine that pops your pills out and into a secure locker, and you'll pick them up. And you will have no more human interaction. It will be like, but they'll make it good. Like the doctors will look real and sound real and be basically deep fakes where they're talking to you and solving your problems. And they'll probably do a better job, honestly. It'll let people have a relationship with a doctor that they can't afford in real life. What I think one profession that's going to go up in flames is going to be pharmacies. So a pharmacist is completely replaceable by this, because you can get them, again, an AI program to check for counterindications. They can make recommendations about what medicine they want to push out. Whatever the corporation made a backroom deal with a company can suggest, here's our generic or whatever. That will happen shockingly fast, because a pharmacist, I think the average pay is somewhere around 100 to 150. Why would I pay $100,000 when I can have a machine do this probably for $3 or $4 grand, and I never have to deal with an employee and their staff? Like, we can literally have robots count pills, put them into a machine, a dispenser, and verify it by a card or an eye or something. I don't know, some sort of retinal scan. I don't know what they're going to do, but they will find a way around it. And the only pharmacists I think that will be left are the guys that do original stuff, like compounding pharmacists. They might be able to make it, because you would be making stuff for rich people. But the general Joe Schmoes, man, what'll happen is they'll have 2 or 3 corporations that own all these dispensaries, and they'll be able to do it with just, quote, one doctor supervising. And it will blow up, where they'll basically write it so basically, a pharmacist doesn't mean anything anymore, because you'll just use computers to do their job. So I would definitely stay out of the pharmacy program. That is not going to be a bright future, I don't think. Okay, let's get back to art for a minute, because I'm going to talk about entertainment. Now, the entertainment industry, you're seeing this blow up in real time. The fact that a lot of it's their fault, though. I mean, part of it was they just made a lot of programming with themes in the last 5 years that don't sell to the public. They're picking a lot of woke stuff that people don't want. But the entertainment industry employs one of the most artists. They have the guys that build props. They have the guys that build, they'll hire 300 artists to do an animated show, a whole fleet of them. They'll hire the CGI guys that do the backgrounds of stuff, and and not to mention all the other stuff that goes with this, the craft services and the sound guys and the gaffers, and there's a whole lot of jobs revolving around entertainment. Right now, films cost billions of dollars to make if they're heavy with art. But they're getting to a point where we can make a lot of that art. Like, you could get AI to completely render backgrounds without maybe like one guy supervising them, or a small team to make sure the AI looks right. that they don't put, the possums don't have 5 paws, one of those deals. But that's all you'll really need. Like, they're going to get to a point, and as a business owner, it makes sense. Like, why would I hire all this and dish out all this money when I can have a tool do this for me? And I don't have to deal with unions and all that. And the unions were trying hard. I mean, they fought this. They're scared to death about the AI, but they lost. They made a deal that pretty much doesn't stop it or do anything. It's going to stall it for a minute, but it's coming. So I feel like the entertainment industry, it used to be believe it or not, if you guys didn't know this, is one of the #1 imports. Our entertainment was really popular around the world for a long time, and it was a profitable business. But now they're hemorrhaging and losing money, so the first thing they're going to do is tighten their belts and get rid of people, because that's your most expensive. Your employees are your most expensive thing. I think within time, it's going to get to a point where AI gets smart enough and strong enough that I could write a script idea and be like, okay, hit the animate this button, and it will animate it, and it'll get to a point where it can do enough deep fakes that you can have real actors. And what's going to happen is this: there's the death of Hollywood's already happened. Like, the only people that really care about actors anymore are some boomers and some of my generation, Gen X. We still are like, because we grew up in a time where it mattered. If Tom Cruise was in a film, it would do better, whatever, because they had a loyal following. But the younger generations, the millennials, are a little mixed, but the Gen Z doesn't care. Like, they're way more interested in a YouTube star than a Hollywood star. They don't even know who these people are. They'll maybe see a clip and they'll be like, oh yeah, I kind of know that guy, the little short Scientologist guy. What's his name? Tom Cruise. Like, it's not, they're not loyal, or they don't care. So, and you saw that kind of in the election where they were trying to prop up Kamala, and it didn't work this time, which it almost always works. The Hollywood stuff, they'll get them all to vote a certain way and get out, encourage, and it just didn't work. And that was a big sign that Hollywood's kind of dead. So what's going to evolve, and I think what's coming, is you're going to get to a point where you can make virtual actors and you never have to pay them. They never age. They never get into scandals. They don't go Roseanne Barr and tweet in the middle of the night. Like, you will be able to control these actors that look real and sound real on film, and you never have any of the BS. And you can just change them as you want them and keep trying until one's popular. You'll get an AI bot that hits right. And I think even beyond that, and you're already seeing this kind of like in the Mandalorian, right? They did a whole scene, if you haven't seen it, but basically they took old Star Wars characters from the 80s, like Luke Skywalker was digitized so he looked like young Luke Skywalker, and it looked real. Like, his voice was there. They had him come in and do the voice acting. But if I was looking at that and I was watching, not kind of half paying attention, if I wasn't like staring to find out if that was real AI, it would easily pass. So what's going to happen is, for the Gen Xers like us, they will take these characters and they will put Han, Luke, and Leia, put young versions of them, get the computers to do their voice, and basically they own the rights to those characters, and we'll just bring them back for new adventures. That's an alternate universe or whatever where they're all together, and it will look and sound real. So this getting to the point where they just don't need actors, and the old properties they own, they can resurrect actors from the dead and have them play out new adventures. I think so. Hollywood, if you were going to go with art, I would say you could probably still make it maybe in prop design. If you ever watch a lot of the media is mixed. They'll have real people standing in front of like green screens, and they'll actually hold real props. But when they go to full AI, they're not going to need props anymore. They can just make it AI. AI can make the props. So like everything will be, the actors will be AI. It'll all be fake. So I don't know, like if I was like, oh, I'm going to be a prop designer in Hollywood or something like that, I don't think that's around anymore. I think that the entertainment is going to go bad. Like it's not something I would put my time in, unless you were going to do something independent. Now, for you guys know that, I've made a few documentaries that are on YouTube, and they've got a few million hits. They're pretty good for the time period. So there is still that if you can make something entertaining on your own, and I think that AI is going to open a lot of that up. If I could, I was writing scripts and books and stuff. If I could write a script and be like, animate, and hit that button, I probably would. I might go back into entertainment a little and write some stuff because it was fun. And if you could control it, like, okay, maybe I'll get paid on YouTube royalties or whatever, you could probably still make it, but I don't think working for a corporation anymore is going to cut it. You're going to either have to get on and become an influencer, because there's lots of art influencers. I mean, look at just in the carving world where I'm at, there's a lot of big channels out there that, and we all kind of hang out and BS and support each other. I think it's great. So in the art world, I think it's going to move over to the influencer side where you're the entertainment actually doing stuff. And I think AI is going to have a hard time competing with that. They might be able to make a fake influencer or two, but people are going to kind of sniff that out, I don't know. The other thing I think is going to change is the jobs you wouldn't expect. Again, it goes back to government. Government's 80% waste. And if you ever talk to someone in the military or the cops, they'll tell you, like most of their department they could do without. They're like, yeah, we just take the grants and the money because we can, but we don't need a lot of this. My local department doesn't need a tank, but they have one. It's ridiculous. So I think what's going to happen with soldiers and cops and those kind of jobs, you're going to see it a lot more automated. And this goes back to, again, the amount of money it costs to have a soldier in the field when I could just have a fleet of drones and nobody on our side has to really get deleted. They could use drones and machines, and you're already seeing the little robot dogs with, giant weapons on them running around. I think those are what's going to happen is you're going to have someone that just controls a fleet of machines, and you're going to see a lot less. Because if you notice, the Army's kind of falling apart, and most of the military, they're not getting the same caliber of people they used to. They had to bend the rules. I remember, like, back in our day, you could even have tattoos, I don't think. If you had too many tattoos, you couldn't even get in. Where now it's like, well, yeah, you can wear a dog mask and have, facial piercings and tattoos all over you, and you won't be able to run a mile, and you can be 100 pounds overweight, but, we'll take you. It's one of those things where they kind of force the military to take people that are not going to survive in a combat situation. And a lot of the younger generation just doesn't have any interest in doing that path anymore because it's changed so much. And I think you are going to see it being completely replaced, where there's going to be a few people. And plus, think of the politicians that get to control all this. You have a fighting force of robots that will never question your motives, that will not have a conscience, that you can make them do whatever you want without any sort of repercussions, and if they get injured or deleted, no big deal, we build another. The amount of power that will be in people's hands for that will be off the chain, because imagine just having a military force that does whatever you want and follows your order to the letter. And I think that's a scary thing that's coming with AI that I'm not happy about, but I think you'll see a lot of the civil service jobs like that, and you'll see them just simply having a smaller military to save a budget, but it'll end up being a bunch of robots. The other jobs I see really going, and this is bad, is the higher education jobs. So there was a time where you had to really crank it out and push hard to get a PhD or a teaching degree or something like that. And I think education is going to get a serious wake-up call, because right now people have figured out going to college is kind of pointless. And colleges are starting to lose money. But what's going to happen, I think, is they're going to complain about, we don't have enough teachers. And this goes all the way down to government, local government schools. They will start having AI teachers. Because right now, there are so many kids on medications or that have mental issues that they actually have to have a teacher, a main teacher, and then they assign like a secondary teacher to follow this kid around in school that has a disability or something. They basically pay for them to have their own aide, their own teacher, and you'll have 6 or 7 of these kids in a class that each have their own little teacher that follow them around. How expensive is that? That's crazy expensive. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to get AI teachers. And imagine you sit your kid in front of a computer. Teacher comes on, looks real, answers questions. Will be able to adapt. So you have 30 kids in your class. The AI teacher will be able to adapt to the speed of each kid. So if some's way further along in reading, he'll get harder assignments. The other ones won't. It'll adapt and use exactly what some politician wants them to sell. They'll be like, okay, this is what we want you to teach, and don't stray from this. Because right now teachers can kind of stray and be like, I know we're supposed to do this lesson, but here's what you really need to learn today. You're not going to have any of that. You're going to have exactly what they want being taught. And it will be personalized teachers that will kind of in a way help your kid excel. They will, because they can cater it. Each kid will have their own personal teacher. So they can adapt to the speeds. And the kids can all be different speeds and all get special attention. And I think that is very close to coming. The teacher unions will freak out because their jobs will become pointless, but I think the money will win in the end. And this will be brought on first as help for the teachers, and as those teachers age out and retire, they just won't replace them. So they'll sneak this in with AI teachers. And what's going to happen with the college education is, honestly, you have the PhDs to teach, but also their big job is to write studies and get grants. And I can have an AI program write grants now and write as good as any PhD. It will combine thousands of PhDs, and I can write a paper about whatever I wanted by using AI. So I think higher education, I'm not going to pay some professor $150,000 who's got tenure that I can never get rid of, when I can have an AI program do it. Like, it doesn't make, all this is going to come down to money. Like, it just doesn't make sense to hire these people. You will have 1 or 2 that supervise, these guys in the supervisory roles that you can't get rid of, but that's it. And what you're already seeing is you're starting to see hiring freezes where not only are they firing people, but they're not hiring anyone now, especially in the tech sector, and you're starting to see it in the education sector. The higher education, it is hard to get a job as a professor. So I think anything that is kind of in a society, there are people who do things with their hands, and there are people that do stuff with their mind, and the stuff with the mind's going to all get replaced. It's going to be just like the white collar jobs are going to take a major hit. And as much as I don't like them, Schwab said there's AI is basically going to weed out who's useless in society and who's not. And it's kind of a harsh statement, but a lot of our society is set up as a lot of inefficient middleman jobs, and those are going to be the first to get cut. So how does this get back? Like, how do we manage it? I don't want to say survive, because I feel like, that might be a little hyperbolic, but these are things that I'm able to think of and come up with. Imagine someone who's doing this that is motivated by profit and money. They're going to have a lot better ideas than I come up with. We could check back in a year from now and be like, oh wow, I was way off. I didn't see that coming. These are just things, I'm hearing on the internet, or I'm thinking of myself that just seeing how it goes. Like, I was having a conversation with my dentist friend, and we're both like, yeah, there's probably dental is going to be replaced. It'll have like a machine you strap your head into. A computer will scan your mouth, drill out the filling, put it in for you. You know, you'll just be strapped into something, and it'll be able to do it way more efficiency. And I could probably get a machine to replace hygiene completely. Just have a hygienist, you know, little machine go in there and clean teeth. Why would I pay a hygienist $90 an hour when I can have this machine I pay once? You know, I think that's eventually going to be a reality. Is we're just because, you know, I'm an old chiropractor, and I was like, well, they probably could try to replace chiropractic. They could probably make a machine you lay in and that can adjust bones. They already try it with tools. I mean, they have like guns and stuff that kind of move bones. This would be a machine that does that, and you know, they're already almost there. But what you're going to miss is, like, if I get a massage from a chair, it's nice, but it's not the same as getting a massage from a person. There's a energy transfer. There's hands, the flesh feel, and you know, hands on your back. There's a whole different vibe. So I think it'll never completely replace it. So I think the safe jobs. Let me get into these. Sorry about that. The battery died, and I had to actually replace it. I think we were talking about. There was just a couple more things I wanted to go over. The white collar jobs. I was talking about how they're going to get phased out, and you're seeing if you go on to LinkedIn right now, the places that are getting hit the hardest are marketing jobs, IT, and engineering. And a lot of engineering jobs I think can be replaced too by AI. I can pay a computer to figure out a blueprint and make that happen, or design something. I think all that's going to go out. And the way they're going to sell this, the way they're going to get people, because people are going to get really mad that their professions are dead. They will do what they did with healthcare. Okay, so a lot of people watching this may be too young to know this, and I only know this because I hung out with the old timers. But the reason American healthcare is such a mess is because, well, and in Canadian too, this started in Canada. How did they get the government to take over healthcare? How did they sell this? And what they did is the first generation of doctors, they quote, stuffed their mouth with gold. So in the US, the doctors at first were like, no, I don't want to have to go to insurance. You know, I don't want to put this middleman of insurance in between me and my patient. And so they said, you know what? The patient will love it because they don't have to pay for it. And you can submit any claim you want, we'll pay it. So the first generation of docs just kind of rolled over and got rich. And they, I remember looking at my old documents. And, you know, these days when you make an insurance claim, you have to have IDC codes, and you have to write a big, you know, description out of what the patient has and what kind of care plan they need. Back then, I was looking at the records, and the diagnosis was sick. That was it, and they would submit it and get paid. So they bribed the first generation, and they were like, oh, insurance is great. Yeah, pass more because we're getting rich out of our minds. And then they started regulating it. Once everybody got dependent, they regulated it and paid less, paid less, paid less. So they did the long con. They did a game where by the time the second and third generation doctors came through, the money pit was done. Now we were fighting over scraps, and now we're at the fifth and sixth generation doctors where they don't even know how to survive without insurance. So, and insurance doesn't pay for anything anymore, and they control all the policies, and they control the codes, and they control everything. So they will bribe the first generation, and this is what's going to happen with AI. They will bribe the first generation to play ball, and those first generation will get rich and sell it out for the rest of everybody else after them. And the way they will do this is kind of like, think about how would you replace a dentist that doesn't want, because the dentist will all be like, well, no, I don't want my job to be obsolete. What they will do is they'll say, well, this will be a tool. You know, you have to be a dentist to own this tool that extracts teeth. And you know what, Doc? You can own 10 clinics at your local Walmarts under your license, and you will get paid, and all you have to do is a supervisory role where you just kind of write a script, and the machine will take care of the rest. And so the first docs will own all the machines. and they'll spread everywhere. And over a few generations, there'll only be a few companies standing, where there'll be like 4 or 5 big health companies that one dentist owns 90% of the machines, and he's bought and paid for by some corporation behind the scenes. Like, it's one of those deals where the first ones will agree to it as long as they get paid as being a supervisor. So their job's just changing. They're not getting replaced. It's just changing. You're a supervisor. And then once the machines are in and those doctors retire, they take all that money and leave, they'll be like, no, we don't really need anyone. This is going well. You know what? There's one doctor at this corporation that can now manage 1,000 machines, and all he has to do is write the scripts. And the younger generations don't want to be doctors anyway. They don't have, no offense, Gen Z, but very few of you have the mental fortitude to take 10 years of abuse of higher education and the money that has to go out. Or the attention span. I don't know any Gen Z that works one job. They have 10 jobs. Or they'll do something for a year and go, I'm tired of this, and do something, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to taste the world, I want to do everything. They don't have the fortitude it takes to go through 10 years of one job. That's just not that generation. The attention span's short. No offense, because I don't think you're wrong, Gen Z. I just don't think that you are trained to take the same abuse that we did. Like, we just put our heads down and plowed through, even though it was toxic as heck and it wasn't a healthy environment. I mean, there's no reason why medical doctors, the way it's done now, where, they put these guys on rotation and they sleep in the hospital and they won't let them sleep for 72 hours and they're working on patients. That's just bullying and hazing. There is no reason for that. It's just because we did it, so they have to do it. That kind of stuff is on its way out, I think, and I'm glad to see that part go. But it's going to get replaced where the first generation will get very rich that agrees to implement this stuff. And then after that, it'll just be controlled by, a few corporations and the government. So what will happen, though, is the rich will be like, yeah, I'm not going to a machine. I will pay for a doctor. And there will still be a handful of doctors that you can get the old school experience and go to them. And I think that is the future of that. If you want to go into medicine, you better do concierge and work for rich people, basically. Where was I getting at? Oh yeah, how do we survive? Because, ultimately this channel is about crafts and arts. So how do we survive this? And not only survive, but thrive it. And this goes with a lot of different professions I'm talking about. But basically what you have to do is, there is going to be, again, a social stigma with using AI. You have to go counter that as hard as you can. Literally going to a craft fair and being like, everything I do is by hand. I do it myself. You can watch me. Here's a film of it on YouTube. You can be an influencer and not even sell art. You can just make stuff and get paid. People still want that entertainment. And you could go high end. So there will always be rich people that want bragging rights that I am able to afford an original piece of art. I can have a Geordie Johnson statue in my my office, or well, shoot, there probably wouldn't be offices anymore, in my yard, at my country club. There'll still be that kind of thing where it will. I don't think it's ever going to go away, because it'll actually be valued more. Because the amount of hours and sweat and tears it takes to master a craft, even though an AI machine can come in and do it, people will still respect the old school way, and the right clientele will still buy your stuff. Will the masses? No. They'll buy the cheap stuff. They can get a computer to make it. But that's not who you want to sell to. You want to sell to the people that appreciate it and understand. They're like, oh, this is original art. This is amazing. So I think that's the way you go forward. If I were in the tech field, I would probably get into prompting engineering. Those are the guys that make AI run right. That's kind of an AI-proof job, because if you're going to help AI grow, you will be in a very pretty place. Those kind of things. If you're in the medical field, you better be the doc that owns everything. I would, again, Gen Z, if you're listening, I hope you are. Don't go into medicine. Don't. Don't go. I'm going to cut in here and I want to show you this graph. Talking about middle management jobs, right? Look at what happened to hospitals. Over 80 to 90% of the expenses of a hospital are just admin costs now that didn't even exist a few years ago. So look at that chart. Let that sink in. All those jobs can be replaced with AI. Man, just that whole thing needs to crash and burn and start over because there's no saving the medical complex. The other thing I would say is trade jobs. So trade jobs will be a safe place to go too. So even as an artist, you can still do some trade jobs because you might not be able to make much on art unless you're doing high-end stuff. But you could do it on the side as you do a trade job. Things like plumbing, being an electrician, building, that stuff, it's going to be a while before robots completely phase that out. I mean, they're playing with, printing 3D houses and stuff like that, but they're not very good. So, and they're not going to, it's going to be a while before they have a robot plumber show up and go down your pipes and clean everything out. You will have a plumber that controls a machine that does that. It'll make the plumber's life easier, but you will still need a guy to show up and do it. I think you're a few years off on that stuff. So you could probably make pretty good money doing trades right now. I would not go to college. I would go to a trade school if you really want to, or if you can avoid that, just go get an apprenticeship and actually make money instead of spending money. And, keep working on your art, going to the craft fairs, cranking it out, because I think there's going to be a return of that. And what you're going to see at the craft fairs right now is you're seeing a lot of resellers, which they will buy cheap stuff on Temu, put it in a cute cellophane package, and lump these things together and resell them. And there's a little of that going on, but it's starting to get played out, and you're starting to see the craft fairs pushing back against that. They're saying, no, we want everything handmade, not just like taking bought stuff and repackaging it. Although some of it's cute, like, I've seen the ones that they make for Valentine's Day or they make it for Christmas, and they're cute ideas because people are so hard to buy for stocking stuffers for. It makes sense that you can just buy like, this is your stocking stuffer, and it's a low cost. I think you'll still see that, but what you're going to see at craft shows, I think, is there's going to be two markets. Like I always push like have the cheap stuff, so we sell like $10 ornaments and $5 ornaments, but I also spend very little time making those. You will see a push for less sales and more expensive stuff coming up in the future. I think it'll be opposite of what I don't know, because so here's the way it works at the craft show. People are broke right now. So they still want the experience because people are very addicted to buying things. You're trained since a little kid to consume. So it's pleasure to go out and hunt and peck and find a deal. So making things that are a deal, like $5 or $10, they pay the bills for us, but they are not making us rich. But selling the big pieces, they help a lot, right? I can sell one big piece and pay for an entire fair. And there's the right people out here that are really not affected by the economy. They have money, they have trust fund money, or they're inherited, or they took a government job that gets paid obscene amounts of money, and they're well off now. They're sitting on a retirement getting paid. So there's those kind of people. As artists, most of us are broke, so we think like us. We're like, oh man, I wouldn't pay hundreds of dollars for this, but usually you're not the client. You got to stop thinking like a broke person and sell to rich people. They have the money. I would think that's probably what's going to happen with the future is adjust. I do think the craft fairs are going to come back to life because it's a cheap, entertaining way to go out and do something. It just has to find its element. It's evolved, right? So the Gen X, like me and older, still go to the old school craft shows with a wad of cash, and they've been going to the same craft show for 50 years, and I bought my Christmas presents for my grandkids. Those people still show up and will buy your stuff if it's reasonable. The big ticket items are getting bought more by Gen X, Gen X was in this weird place where some of them made money, some are broke. But the ones that made money are pretty generous, and they will buy, like, yeah, I want this bear carving for $500. They'll buy something. Millennials are a mixed bag. They will, some have money because they're kind of like Gen X. They caught the tail end of that. Some are way more just, their lives are a mess and they're living like paycheck to paycheck. And then Gen Z inherited a world where the money has no buying power. So like they're broke. But what they did is they still like to shop. So they made things that they can enjoy buying. And this is where the whole rise of, the anime conventions come in, or Dragon Con or something like that, where Gen Z's artwork is selling like as stickers and $10 paintings. They're making money doing that. And some of these ladies make a good living. They'll make $100,000 selling little anime stickers. But so the art is there, but you have to adjust to who you're selling to. I still choose to follow the money. I sell to Gen X and above. I think that's where you're going to make a living at it. It is much harder to grind out a living at $5 sales. You can be done. I mean, there's a few people doing it, but and as much as I love Gen Z, they're kind of fickle about trends. Like something will be very hot one year and be completely untouchable. Like a Baby Yoda will sell like crazy, and then a year later it's dead. You can't give it away. Where selling to boomers, they kind of like the same stuff most of their life. They'll be like, I like Elvis, so I'm going to keep getting Elvis stuff until I die. They don't let go of the trends. So I think it's an easier sale if you're thinking about doing the craft shows. I still propose on this channel, make your life easy. Now, if you guys notice in my channel, I don't run a real business. I run a hobby business. I'm not trying to make a living at this. I'm getting it to try to pay for my tools. And that's a different mindset completely, because I can come and go as I want. There's no pressure. I can enjoy it. When you turn your art into a business, it's a whole different animal. It's a different mindset. Things change quickly. You start making products that people want instead of stuff you want to make. And that's hard. You have to find something that both you enjoy doing and making. You also need art that can scale if you're going to do a business. So like you'll see people with glow forges and CNCs and wood burning machines that can mass produce stuff. Now the designs are original, but maybe they'll do some sanding and stuff to fix it up, but they're not hand making it. A machine is making it for them. They can go to sleep and wake up and have a bunch done. That's different. I think what's going to happen is those kind of businesses are going to struggle a little more, although they can shift and pivot quickly. But you're always going to have a cheap knockoff from China. You make a cute little design that's selling really well on Etsy. 3 months later, there's going to be a knockoff of that. Where wood carving is a little different. Not that they don't have machines. I do believe they have machines that can carve. But it's not that prevalent, and it's smaller stuff. Like, I don't know if they have machines big enough that I could throw a 8-foot log in it would sculpt something. Probably somewhere, but you're not seeing it a lot. I did see something was really interesting in the sculpture world. So if any of you guys ever worked in stone, stone is really laborious to work with. It is difficult and hard. And the block out takes forever. So with wood, a block out, if you don't know what we're talking about, it's like if I take a log and I put a design on it, it's cutting away all the stuff you don't need real quickly. So the block out on stone's a lot harder to do. And so what they're doing is they are using machines. They have these sculpture machines that will go in and carve out and block it out for you. And then, so the machine can carve 90% of the sculpture, and then they got a team of people to come in and do the last 10%. And then the artist designs the design, So famous sculptors are like secretly using these machines, and they don't tell their clients. They're just like, yeah, I sculpted everything by hand. But 90% of it was roughed out as a blank. And then they usually have a team of people doing the grunt work, the sanding and stuff. So you're already seeing some sculptors sneaking that in. And I don't blame them, because honestly, if I could buy a blank, I don't see it different as buying like a wood blank. You can go online and buy wood blanks of carved people that all you can do is put the faces in and the hands. A machine did that, probably. Or maybe some old guy just does it on his hobby. He just cuts out blanks. Like you'll see that at the wood shows, the wood carving shows. I don't see a big difference, but the thing is, there's such a social stigma that if I'm paying, you know, $50,000 for a statue, I want it hand carved. I don't want a machine to carve that. And there's such a social stigma that the artists keep it secret, and the people that run these machines won't tell you who the artists are that use them. It's like a privacy clauses. So I think that's a little unethical, just to not be like, yeah, use a machine and block it out. But so they're hiding that. I assume that might be coming to the rest of the art worlds eventually. I mean, it's already in stone carving, and I don't blame them. They should just be honest about it and be like, yeah, I have a machine blank it out, and then I do the finishing work. But that devalues the piece. You know, in people's head, they're going to be like, oh, so this is 90% machine made. That's not quite the same. I would feel that way. If I'm paying a high dollar, I want it hand carved, old school, old world. And we'll see how long that happens. So anyway, world's going crazy. It'll be completely different in a year. We'll check back in a year, and you'll be like, Lupo, I didn't believe you, but I'm seeing this at my own job. I think it's going to happen way faster than we expect. So my voice is hoarse from talking for an hour. I'm going to check out. I love you guys. Please leave your comments. I'm sorry if I upset some of you, because you might be in these fields and be like, oh, what? My job's going to be, yeah, your job. Just start planning. Get ahead of it. Be on the other side of it. Because these professions are going away, and they're going to go away fast. And if you deny it's happening, you're going to be on the wrong side of this and get run over. But if you put yourself in front of it, you make a lot of money right now, and set yourself up so you don't have to worry about working anymore. So I love you guys. I can't wait to read the comment section that's coming for this one. So feel free to share this and check out my other stuff. I've got lots of videos on craft fairs. These are longer ones, these podcast form. People just put this on the background and listen. And I have many of these where we really dive into how to, well, mainly about craft fairs and what's coming. And a lot of this I point at Gen Z, because I feel like it is our responsibility to help the young folks find a profession and be honest and truthful with them. And it's up to our generation, guys. If you're listening to Gen X, they need help, man. And, you know, we're partially responsible for causing this problem. So we need to help them navigate through so they can be happy, healthy people. Do your part. Love you guys. I'll see you soon.